The scholarships are a sham. The scholarships do not exist.
What do you mean they're sham?
They deceive them, saying that they will find jobs here easily and they will study at the same time. And a few days later, they start telling them that they need to engage in prostitution.
It's troubling. Seriously, it's troubling. Why? I do not have that money to pay.
So, come with me. Let's go travel. We are in the heart of Lefkosia, in the ancient city in Northern Cyprus. This Mediterranean island offers not just history, but also international education. And there's a reason why each year, several thousand African students show up on this island looking for an international degree. So, what makes it so attractive? We find out. As of this year, between 20 and 30,000 African students study in Northern Cyprus. Given an overall population of less than 400,000 inhabitants, that's quite a number. No wonder they've become a pillar of the Northern Cyprus economy, an economy that has been struggling since the Turkish Cypriots declared independence in 1983 after years of war and crisis. In the early 2000s, no university programs started to attract international students with low tuition fees and affordable accommodation. The growing number of students keeps the economy running. Around 20 universities in the small de facto territory are wooing potential graduates. This must be student heaven then. To find out more, I met with Omar Inorom, who is a student and editor of a travel magazine. So besides education, what do students get out of this place?
As you know, Cyprus has a lot of tourist locations, so we organize the tourist places and then take students there. Their response is always like, oh, when is the next one happening? Where is it happening? Put me on your broadcast list so I can be getting notifications. So.
That sounds amazing, but student life cannot always be blissful. When I asked about potential problems, Omar insists,
so far, you cannot have everything in every country. There is always going to be some bad news somewhere, but when you check the bad news compared to the positive aspects, of course you would find a bit of a higher ground for the positivity.
This talk about bad news made me suspicious, so I decided to do some digging of my own. And what I found was disturbing. I've seen stories about racism, discrimination, and even the death of some students. Is this the same Northern Cyprus? There must be something happening here. I want to talk to some students to find out if there is another side to the Northern Cyprus story. On the outskirts of Lefkosia, I'm about to meet Brutus Hunda, a student at Near East University. As president of the Liberian Students Association, he's had a lot of complaints from other students who came to the island via agents, recruiters who promised them easy work and affordable accommodation. But the reality is,
it's kind of difficult currently. I have almost 10 students who are just stopping partially with friends because they came and then the accommodation, some of them, what the agent told them, the price and other stuff, it has escalated. And the Turkish pay low amount while the international students pay high amount. For God's sake, we students, this place does not have a job, but it shouldn't be like an exploit. Yeah, there is completely exploitation.
You feel that there's exploitation?
Exploitation.
With no prospects for work and under financial pressure, some students choose desperate measures.
One of my brothers left here with me due to the shame-based information he got from the agent that did his work. So when he came, he went to school the first semester and the second semester couldn't pay his tuition. He couldn't pay his tuition, so he decided to venture to the south. He got arrested and he was sent to jail.
Brutus himself faces severe financial difficulties because his agent did not tell him the truth. On top of all that, just recently his landlord arbitrarily increased the rent. And how are you going to manage this?
Well, that's a tough question. But actually, it is troubling. Seriously, it's troubling. I wake up $380 United States dollars. Why? I'm not working. I do not have that money to pay.
Brutus's story gave a glimpse into education in Northern Cyprus. He kept talking about student agents, so I went to find someone who knows more. Emmanuel Achiri is a PhD student and co-founder of Voice, short for Voice of International Students in Cyprus, one of the largest student organizations on the island. And a critical part of this recruitment process is the use of agents by the various universities. Talk to us about how that works.
If I were an agent, for example, on behalf of a university, I have an understanding with the university that for every student I bring to the northern part of Cyprus, all right, I get paid about $500 to $600 by the university. I also reserve the right to ask for a fee from the student I'm bringing. And
so just to understand, that the agents are able to take agency fees from the students and also paid fees from the university for bringing the students.
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. And I think the really bad thing about the whole agency issue is that it's not regulated. In fact, we do know from some of the studies that we've done that a huge, almost 50% of students said the agents misled them, lied to them.
When you say they misled them, what are some of the things that the agents told them that were not true?
I mean, we've heard cases as bad, all right, as, well, not mentioning that you are coming to the northern part of Cyprus, just saying Cyprus. You may be asking the question, with all the technology and information, how are these students not able to find the information? Yeah. And we did ask these questions to some agents, and what they told us was, we relate or we contact the parents. They would not go to the internet and start searching for information about Cyprus, so it's easier to mislead that way. But of course, we also know that some agents would not talk about you're coming to Cyprus. They'll tell you, well, you're coming to the northern part of Cyprus, but they don't give you the full picture. You were told, for example, well, you can get a job. When you come here, you can get a scholarship. When you come, but students come and there are no jobs. The legal way, the vast majority are working in the unregulated or as illegal workers. Scholarships, well, the scholarships are a sham. The scholarships do not exist.
It looks like the agent's system is not regulated at all. How is this even possible?
The very short answer I will tell you is that it's by design. In fact, it is no longer misleading information. It is trafficking, and the institutions and the administration is guilty of being a part of this. So the entire system is benefiting from the agent malpractices.
The information Emmanuel gave me was not only disturbing, but backed by hard facts. Voice did a survey of 800 students, with 79.1% of them being African. More than half of them had bad experiences with their agents. On an island with little to no student jobs, becoming an agent could be lucrative. The entry barrier is low. The missing regulation leads to a large number of misled and often vulnerable young people. Easy prey for loan sharks and all sorts of other exploitation, as Fazil Ozum, a human rights lawyer, tells me. So yeah, you were telling me about male students who also end up in the construction sector. Explain again how that works.
So what they do is that sometimes they try to find jobs, they can't. So they fail to pay the universities, they become passive students, so they become irregular residents at the same time. And they can't go back to their countries for a variety of reasons, either because they're scared that they will be judged by their parents, because their parents have paid a lot for their child to go abroad, you know, especially in some African cultures, it's a very, very valuable thing to send someone abroad. And they don't know what to do when they go back to their countries without even a degree. So they still have a hope that they can work, and in the future, once they save money, they would complete their studies, basically. This is the major motivation. And they work in construction sites. We see young, especially African men to work in the construction sites and to work in the agriculture, in the farms especially.
I mean, of course, you don't have to mention the names, but are there specific examples of human trafficking that you have personally dealt with?
Yes, yes. Many cases. And they are recently mostly related to trafficking of young African girls into, they're forced into sex work basically by personal traffickers or sometimes criminal groups. They deceive them, and when they arrive here, they meet with them in the airport and they take them to private apartments. And a few days later, they start telling them that they need to engage in prostitution and that they have debt to that trafficker. So we call it debt bondage in the literature of human trafficking. So they say that they are not allowed to leave home, they're not allowed to go to the university. And if they resist, most of the time, they are physically abused or psychologically manipulated by the traffickers. So this is a very typical sexual exploitation case in the northern part of Cyprus, yes.
And can you shed some light on who these groups are, these criminal networks?
With the abuse of the student visa type of trafficking, we see a lot of foreign kind of trafficker groups and their numbers are getting higher and higher each year, basically.
I'm trying to understand, when you say foreign trafficker groups, what does that mean?
So in the exploitation of young African girls, we see African women and African men engaged mostly, but also they have collaboration with some locals as well.
Many of these cases don't get to the Attorney General's office for prosecution. The police often says it is conducting more investigations, but one reason could be that the problem is simply out of hand. So how do authorities want to handle this problem? We put these complaints to the Minister of Education. Let's hear what he has to say. A lot of the international students are facing challenges with regards to discrimination, issues to do with racial profiling, universities as a result of the competition, selling programs that sometimes do not exist, or agents representing the universities in a way that is not accurate. What is the plan to deal with these issues regarding the international students?
Evet, bizim bu coğrafyada yaşayan
Our people are not inherently discriminatory. We cannot allow isolated incidents to generalize the whole Turkish community.
genellemek kabul edebileceğimiz veyahut da doğru bulabileceğimiz bir durum değildir.
Yeah, but despite all of this, there are issues with misrepresentation and students getting here and finding out that the reality is not what is actually on the ground. And this is regards to the universities using agents. How are these agents and the recruitment of these universities supervised?
Evet, acentelerle ilgili üniversitelerin kendi iletişimleri olmak.
The universities are in communication with the students. But with regards to the agencies, we are preparing a legislation.
Bir yasa hazırlıyor.
The agents have to be accredited by the Ministry of Education if they want to bring foreign students. The ones that are not accredited are not able to bring students to the island.
Öğrencileri bu şekilde
And also those agents who mislead students will be penalized. Even if minor incidents happen,
sorun da ortadan kalkmış olacak. Dolayısıyla
from now they will be held accountable.
herhangi bir öğrencinin böyle bir şikayeti olmayacaktır. Yani çok nadiren böyle bir olay olmuş olsa bile onun da önüne geçmek adına acenteleri Milli Eğitim Bakanlığı'na akredite edecek.
In a state where corruption is rife, getting justice is a slow process. Still, Northern Cyprus has great universities, 3 of them ranked in the Times Higher Education list. But for your own safety, Fazil Ozum has some advice.
Don't rely on an individual to come to the northern part of Cyprus. Try to rely on institutions. Try to make your research in the best way you can. Don't trust the people that you meet online. Don't trust to the words of saying that you would easily find a job here, because it's not true. We have an economic crisis here and it's going to get worse. And there are basically almost no job opportunities, no decent job opportunities, I may say, for students here. So probably even if you find a job, you would be exploited and you would not be able to seek justice after that. So, and plus, make sure that you are financially sustainable enough so that if you have any problems here, you wouldn't be in a vulnerable position financially, I may say.
With tuition fees averaging 1,000 euros per semester, studying in Northern Cyprus can be cheap compared to, say, Europe or North America. But there are issues of discrimination and outright racism. So be sure before you make that big step.